"Mr. Evans, you're fired." "What? Why?" "Even if you ask why, it's a decision that's been made. With just 1 year left until retirement." One day, a young manager was transferred to the department I belonged to. One day, the manager called me in and suddenly announced my dismissal. They wouldn't tell me the reason. Feeling at a loss and having no choice but to accept the dismissal, I told my wife about it. And the next day, when I went to pick up my belongings at the company, the office was in an uproar. "My name is James Evans. I'm just a mediocre employee at a securities firm. I switched to this firm when I was 30. And for 29 years since then, I've worked tirelessly for the company. I had just 1 more year until retirement." "Evans, about this handover. Let's see, is it about the clients here?" "Yes. I've taken over from you, but I was wondering how best to handle it. It's best to have thorough discussions with these clients. Since it's not small-scale transactions but large ones, they're also cautious. If we can address their concerns in our meetings, we can smoothly carry out the transactions." "I see, I understand. Thank you very much." With retirement approaching, I was handing over my responsibilities to my subordinates. With just 1 year left, the system was in place for me to focus on internal work, and I was finally relieved to have completed a phase of work. One day, there was a person transferred to our department from a different city. When I saw the person escorted by the branch manager, it was a young employee. I thought, a new recruit transferred at this time. That's rare, and as the employee who had just been transferred was introduced by the branch manager. "We have a new department manager transferred to our department this time. His name is Tom Green. Let's have him introduce himself. I have been transferred to this department and appointed as the manager. I'm Tom Green. I'm still young, but I'll do my best to lead everyone like my father, who leads this company. Everyone, I'm counting on you." Hearing the surname Green, I remembered the existence of the president's son. He was indeed the president's son. As the president's son, I understood that he had obtained the exceptional position of manager at the young age of 25. This document is hard to read. Who made this document? Yes, it was me, but why is this document formatted like this? Can't it be made more readable? This document has been decided to be created in this format from before, so I've been creating it like that. Ha! Even if it's been like that before, can't it be revised? If it's hard for me to read, I think it would be even harder for my father, who is the president. Are you going to present something like this to the president? I'm terribly sorry. Besides, if I were to become the president and presented with such a document, I would lose interest. Please create documents that catch my eye as well. He often brought up his father in conversation. Because of that new manager, he's the president's son, but he's got a bit of an overbearing attitude, doesn't he? He just tosses work to us and then acts like he doesn't know anything. The other day, I made the document exactly as he asked, but he still complained. It's hard to speak up because whenever you do, he brings up his father. He was disliked by those around him. In fact, I also noticed several occasions where the manager mentioned his father during conversations. I tried not to pay much attention to it, knowing I only had 1 more year until retirement. Evans, can I have a word with you? Yes, what is it? It's not ideal to talk on the floor, so shall we talk in the small conference room? Understood. One day, after finishing my lunch break, I returned to my desk to resume work, but I was immediately called in by the manager. I was suddenly summoned to the small conference room individually, wondering if I had done something wrong. Is it about the client I recently started a new deal with? Or is it about trouble with my previous responsibilities? Or is it something more important? I couldn't guess what the call was about. Did I do something wrong? Or is it about something else? No, it's just about something else. Since I couldn't get any more information from the manager then, in the small conference room, I headed to the conference room, pondering various things in my head. And then the manager and I entered the conference room. Well, please sit down for now. Yes. We don't have much time, so I'll get straight to the point. Evans, you're fired. I was shocked by the sudden dismissal and involuntarily stumbled for words. While the manager across from me was handing me a dismissal notice and talking, I couldn't remember the details as I was surprised and trying to recall if I had done something. I mustered the courage to ask for the reason. Why is that? But the manager only responded without explaining the specific reason for the dismissal. This is a decision that's been made. Despite repeatedly asking for the reason, I was only met with "because it's a decision" and brushed off. Evans, you're reaching retirement next year, so think of this as an early retirement. But I still have one more year, you know. Physically, I'm still fine for another year, and I can still work like everyone else. I've heard that the handover is already done. And besides, you're not going on field visits anymore, right? You're at an age where it's tough on your body, isn't it? But that's... Well, anyway, being fired is a decision that's been made. Leave the rest to us young folks. But I'm in trouble. For me too. Evans. Do you know who I am? If I wanted to, I could even tell the president about this. My decision is akin to the president's decision. With that, the manager left the room. Left behind, I didn't know what to do and felt vague about it. And then, afterward, I had no choice but to head home without understanding anything. What should I tell my wife? If I suddenly say something like this, I might just make her worry unnecessarily. But I have to say it. On the way home, I became increasingly weighed down by the thought of what to explain to my wife when I got back, afraid I might cause her undue worry. I'm home.
Welcome back. Dinner is already prepared.
Oh, I'll change and be right there. Returning home with heavy steps, I decided to tell my wife about being laid off during dinner. I have something important to tell you.
Is it related to why you seemed down when you came back today?
Yeah. Actually, I've been laid off from the company. Anxious, I couldn't look at my wife's face while speaking. I wondered how much I would disappoint her, and with unease, I kept my head down. But to my surprise, her response was astonishing.
I'm happy. You finally quit the company.
Expecting my wife to worry, I was surprised by her joyful response, and I lifted my head.
You've worked so hard until now, so let's take it easy from now on.
Looking at my wife's smiling face, she seemed to be in a very cheerful mood. And my wife didn't blame me at all for being laid off. Well then, I'll go to the company.
Okay.
I'll just go pick up my things, so I'll be back soon. The next day, I went to the office to gather my belongings. As usual, when I entered the company, the atmosphere was unusual. Who is it? Whose doing is this? Why haven't we been informed? Boss, you have a phone call. Damn. Another call in this situation? Furthermore, when I headed to my floor, the manager was panicking and shouting. Was there something this morning? The manager seems flustered, but what's going on? Oh, I just heard about it, too. It seems like one after another, our major clients are canceling contracts. And we don't know the reason. When I asked my colleague about the reason for the commotion in the office, it seemed that today, the cancellation of major clients' contracts had occurred one after another. And so, each major client's account manager had been constantly contacting those clients, and the manager had been frustrated since morning without knowing the cause. By midday, the situation had not improved, but rather, the number of contracts terminated had increased compared to the morning, and the manager's face had turned pale. Despite the chaotic situation, I thought I still had to give my final greetings, but when I approached the manager, "Now's not the time for that. Can you leave it for later?" I was brushed off. While observing the situation, I greeted other employees. And even while giving those greetings, the manager's voice echoed throughout the floor. "Are you really making sure to contact them? If the cancellations continue like this, it will cause significant damage. You know that if something like that happens, it's the lower-ranking employees who will be fired first, right? But, we've been making calls since this morning. And besides, then think of ways to apologize directly to the company. Absolutely useless. That's why you can't rise up the ranks and remain just regular employees. If you're an account manager, show more initiative in your work." I didn't mean to. What's this? Are you talking back? Then fix the situation before saying anything. His voice was filled with anger toward his subordinates, and the manager continued to berate them one after another. In such a chaotic situation where even giving greetings was impossible, I hastily packed my belongings and went home. After all that happened, apparently, the cause is unknown. Well, I've already been fired, so I can't investigate the cause. After returning home, when I talked to my wife about what happened at the company, she smiled.
Oh, about your company. Actually, our group company had many contracts with them.
And she began to speak mischievously.
You know, my job. I manage a number of restaurants, right? So, we had business dealings with the company you worked for. But we canceled all of them.
Why would you do such a thing? Is it because I got laid off?
Well, that's one factor, but to be honest, I never really liked the company you were at. The sales interactions were polite, but when visiting for meetings, the internal atmosphere didn't seem great. And the salespeople were only polite at first.
That's surprising.
So, I thought it was a good opportunity when I heard you got laid off. That's why I canceled everything.
Actually, my wife is the chairperson of a major holdings company that owns numerous restaurants. These restaurants had contracts with the company I worked for, but apparently, she never really liked the company I was at, so she took this chance to cancel all the contracts at once. I couldn't hide my surprise, but honestly, I felt a bit relieved.
Being forced to retire due to layoffs might not be ideal, but let's take it easy from now on.
Yeah. It's a bit early, but let's relax.
Exactly. You've worked hard all this time. Besides, I want to spend time with you, so I'll step down from the chairperson position. I've already decided on a successor.
Despite being laid off, after working for 29 years, I had enough savings. And apparently, My wife decided to pass on the chairperson position to a successor after my retirement. We entered into an early retirement life and started to spend our days leisurely. How was this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Well then, see you in the next video.